Okay, good afternoon, welcome back. This is episode 7 of Button a Day, the first project. We're looking at a futuristic hot rod by a guy called Hugh Hunt, one of those. Details in the description and also in this video. Let's kind of get cracking. So for anybody who doesn't know me, my name's Dan Rutter. I've been working in the film industry for the last 4 years, doing CAD modelling, taking concept designs, drawing them up, getting ready for 3D print, CNC, jet cutting, all that sort of stuff, and then building them up. This is what we're doing. Hunt Doherty's futuristic sci-fi hot rod. We're going to sort of break it down bit by bit. Check him out over at ArtStation. He's got loads of really cool concepts, loads of designs, lots of inspiration. Can't let me back the build shit there. It looks like a complicated build process, but we've been breaking it down, and the key rule here is just not to panic. So, things I discovered at the end of the last stream was that rendering stuff can be quite intensive on my computer, because I think I clicked render and then the stream ended. But this is where we got to. We've got this sort of back section over here. You know, we modelled this new sweep, much more elegant kind of air intake. We're going to sort of look at the back section here. But today I thought let's go back to the front. We'll add a bit more detail in here. We'll start looking at the revolve feature, which I don't think we've really looked at much, and some hopefully advanced patterning. And we're going to look at copying across all these little sort of engine valve details in the top here. So some little bits and pieces going on in this front. So we're going to make some little round pieces. And then, yeah, like I say, pattern them around, and we'll just try and add a bit more detail in here. So without further ado, let's get going. This is where we got to. As usual, I skip straight to the end of my feature tree, which I can do down the bottom here. And I'm just going to delete our mirror feature from the end. It just takes us back to our 1/2 that we've got going on. Another thing we do is open up our reference images. So launch Quadro, and I think our top-down view gives us a slightly better indication of what's going on. Like I say, this is a big thing about drawing up concept art, is interpreting some design intent on what's going on. I'm just going to make this slightly more visible. Do this a few times. So this is a great free little bit of software. I'll put the link again in the bottom of this video, but it enables you to just sort of open up your reference images, and the nice thing is that they remain on top. You can lower the opacity so you can still see what's going on behind them. Quite useful if you want to bring an image in to trace around it, although you can do that using image planes, which maybe we'll look at for another project. Okay, so we've drawn up half of this front section here, and it seems to be divided into sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 pieces. So we want to divide this one into 2.5 pieces. So what do we think the best way of doing that's going to be? Well, let's right click. I have to remind myself how to use Fusion. We'll select a face of that body. It highlights our bodies folder. Go down, it's this part here. We've got that little dashed line underneath it. We can right click on that and we can choose isolate. And that means we don't have to worry about having the rest of the car there or anything. So we're going to try and split this up, I think. We will do this by starting a sketch on this bottom face. So we go to create sketch, select this bottom face here, and we're going to try and sort of draw some lines to act as our slicing tools. So we can snap to this back edge. We'll just do a line like so. Yep. So that'll be our sort of half wedge. We can do, it says, we can do a pattern, rectangular pattern. Grab our information box here. That's not what we want. We want that information box. The object that we want to pattern is going to be this sketch line. I don't want to do a circular pattern. I would like to create a rectangular pattern. There we go. Objects, this sketch line. Direction, I'm going to go along this back here. Distance type is the extent that we want to travel across to. Quantity 3. So if we drag this out, we can kind of get a little preview of what's going on. I think somewhere there is probably fine. We can tweak this, so that's an overall distance of 400 divided equally into 3. If we'd wanted to specify what the spacing between each was, we're at 200 at the minute. If we said, okay, let's do 220, that leaves this one a little bit too short here, so let's bring it back to, say, 180. Yeah, that looks alright. We'll go okay. Once we've done that, we can do come out of our sketch, and we will do an extrude. What have we got? A split. Let's have a little look here. What have we got? Split body. Yeah. Body to split. This one. Splitting tools. We want to go down. We've got our sketches turned off. So on the left hand side at the bottom here, we can just turn our sketches folder on. That means we can see our sketches. Our splitting tools are going to be these 3 lines. Press OK. Okay, so that's going to split that up for us. Now we've got our different bodies here. So I'm going to turn some of these off for a second. And I think we're going to do that by doing a chamfer. So we'll just select these edges. We'll do, I think 50 is a bit extreme, just do 30 mil. Yeah. Let's turn on our next body here. Give that a chamfer. Now this time we want to do both sides. This side, this side, this side. 30 mil. Enter. Next one. So I'm thinking this is going to be the last video on this vehicle at this speed, if that makes any sense. And what I'm going to do is the next video that goes up is going to be a time lapse of me just finishing this off. I will stop and pause and go into any detail of if there's anything or using any tools that we've not covered as yet. But it's all just going to be using the basic features that we're doing. We're not doing anything too extreme. And set that to 30. I've been quite busy finally unpacking from having moved house and just generally getting things sorted, which is good for me. And now we're kind of done, which is always good. So we can concentrate a bit more on doing this. I've also set up a Twitter account at button_a_day. Button the day was already taken, the cheek of it. If you've got any questions or if there's anything you want covered, any features, any queries, drop me a tweet. Okay, so we've divvied this up. We're going to add some of these sort of round engine block type looking things on the top here. Very technical terms. So we want 3 on each side, probably running around here. So for this we're going to do a revolve. And in order to do a revolve, we want to start a sketch somewhere that makes sense. So we can do a sketch on this face here. Should be fine. So we do a sketch on here. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a line to use as reference that comes off of this crease line we've got going on here. I've got my 3D sketches turned on. Now that's annoying, so we'll untick that, we'll finish the sketch, we'll start a new sketch, select this face. There we go. So we are going to, interesting, we're going to project this information that we need here. So we're going to create, we'll go to project include, project, and we'll just project that line, and that's that's going to appear as something that we can snap to in our sketches. So now we've got this sort of crosshair, so we know that the end of this line is going to always be attached to that edge. If I pull up at an angle, we see this small square in the corner where the two lines join. That means I'm drawing at a perpendicular angle, which is what we want. And this line's actually going to be the axis that we're going to revolve around. So now we can kind of zoom in on here. I mean, just sort of like doodle a shape that we think is going to sort of make this weird carburettor-y type looking thing. Now, originally I thought they might be open on the top. I don't think that's the case, so I think it's just a sort of a dipped detail. Don't know why that tick box is always in the wrong place. Go over there. Bring this up here. A little flat top to it, and then maybe we sort of do a nice sort of curved thing on the go, something like that. That looks kind of cool. And I don't know. This could look cool. This could look bad. We don't know. Spline tools. Always tick the little green button I just accused of being in the way in order to finish drawing your line. Tick. There we go. Now I can actually grab that end point and shift it around a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Other things we can do is we'll just trim. No, we won't. We will close off this shape just by doing that. Okay, we'll finish our sketch. We're going to go to revolve. Pretty simple. It asks for the profile shape, which is going to be this one. The next thing it asks is the axis that we're going to revolve around. So we click here. This gives us this sort of shape. Default, because we are creating something that intersects something else, Fusion thinks, okay, we obviously want to cut it. We don't. We want to create a new body, so we'll do that. We can change this axis point, so we could revolve around here, and then we end up with something like this, all kind of bizarre. So you can play about with it, but that's what we want at this point. You can also change the angles. If you don't want to do a full revolve, we can specify, well, that's set to be a full revolve, or you have an angle, and then you can type in, actually, I just want it to be 45 degree, and it just does a little wedge like that. So again, we just want to go edit that feature we just created, because we do want that to be a full revolve. Okay. So, it's very hard to see what's going on in here. There's obviously much more little bits and pieces, little pipe work connecting all of this. I'm thinking maybe this is just a bit too severe of a shape, so that's fine. We can go to the sketch we used to make it, right click, choose edit sketch, and we can just come in here and we can maybe pull this one out, pull this one out a little bit, just give it a little bit of a shape to it. Finish sketch, gives us that. So once we've got that, let's make this a bit smaller, bring it back over here. We can start patterning that around. So as we've done in the past, we've done create, pattern, a rectangular pattern, and we would like to pattern a body, which is this one, direction, this one. Ideally we want 3, so that's all good, so we can just start dragging this out, do something like that. Turn on our missing engine shape there. Now these suddenly look really small as soon as you turn that bit on, so that's fine. We can go back to our initial sketch, right click, edit sketch, and we start making this a bit bigger. So let's drag this point out here, let's drag this one here, this one here, drag this one to here. And what we should be doing is adding some dimensions to these. So make sure nothing's selected. We can drag out our dimension tool, say, okay, let's make this 105. We'll make this bit here 10 mil. This bit to this bit 10 mil. I'll do this at a 130. That to that. It's going to be 8 mil. And specify a length for that. Okay. Yeah, finished sketch. See how they look. So this suddenly looks really thick. Which, okay, yeah, not too bad. I think we'll step backwards in our feature tree. So before we pattern that, we'll just make some little changes to this. The old trusty fillet tool. Do a little bit of that. Say 5. I really don't like the fact you can't press enter. Somebody will message me and tell me there's a way of doing that. I'll do that also at 5 and not press enter. We'll do this edge here as well. And then you fillet that one. It's going to be something really small actually. Let's go 1.5. And we'll add a little chamfer. Just this top edge here. 2 mil. Okay. So that kind of smooths things out a little bit, and then we can move our feature tree line. Just check. See, yeah, cool. Over to the right, so we're repatterning that across. Okay, cool. Let's glue our engine block back together again. So under modify and combine, we're going to choose one body, and then our tool bodies, this one, and this one. We're going to join them together. Okay. That's all back together again. Right click on that, choose unisolate. That brings us back the rest of our car. Still not too happy with these incredibly sharp edges we've got going on down here. So let's add a little round over to these. Something like that. Okay. Now what we can do is we can do some more patterning. Let's have a look. I'm just going to call up some, let's look up some engine detail. Engine block. Reference. Let's have a look what Google kicks up. Here we go. So there's lots of all these stuff. This is nice. I like this sort of detail, this round, this connecting piece running across. That's all kind of cool. That's got some nice stuff on it. All these little fixings. Stuff like this is going to be nice to include. So it's always good to just sort of look up some reference. If you can't make out what it is in the concept art, but you know what they're kind of going for, you know, it's obviously supposed to be an engine of some sort, then we can start dropping in some bits and pieces in there. Obviously, if this is a full-size make, you know, if somebody's going to build this in a shop, you might want to have a look around at what you can buy off the shelf, what you can order, what you might be able to hire in, and use it to dress as part of the construction. But we're not limited by such things today, so that's all good. Okay, so I'm going to do a little sketch on the top of this. We'll try and get some of that information in there. So we'll do a sketch. Any one of these is fine. They're all on the same plane. So I'll start a sketch on here. And then we'll have a look what we can do. So I think it would probably be a little surround for these, so I'm going to try and project that information. Project include. Oh. You always end up with your reference in way of the wrong place. So I'm going to grab this piece. Actually, I'm not going to worry about that because we're going to pattern this down. We'll get rid of that. We're just going to grab that center point there. That's what we want. Okay. So now I've got that center point there. I can snap my circle to the middle of it. Give this a dimension. 40. Let's do a little offset. So we've got our offset sketch tool. 12 mil. Okay. Let's leave that down here. And we can pick up on the apex edge of this, which we can do from going to the center, straight out, snap to horizontal. We want to come right over to here. We'll do our offset again. Offset that. It's a shame it doesn't do an equal offset, where you can offset a line in either direction. That would have been quite good. Now we know this was a 12 mil offset, so we do this one at 6. To run another offset. Do this one at 6, but running this direction, so -6. You can right click on this middle line and turn it into construction line, so it becomes dotted. And the last thing to do is we'll close this up here like that. Okay, so once we finish our sketch, we can go to our extrude. Now I want to grab like pretty much everything. I want to do that whole piece, this piece, this piece, that piece, that piece. Now that's weird. Why has that decided to select the entire thing, I wonder? That's not what we want. Okay, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go back. We're going to neaten up this sketch. You shouldn't have to, but edit sketch. Sometimes it's having some difficulties. So we will go up to our modify and trim. I'm just going to trim off these lines here, and this line here and here. So now that is one complete shape. Finish our sketch. Extrude. That seems to be dealing with things a bit better. So we're happy with that. We can bring this up, say 10 mil, and we also want to go down. You see how we've got this sort of gap here where things aren't really making a lot of sense. So instead of doing just one side, we want to do 2 sides, and then under our second side we can specify our distance here, or we can just drag our handle. We'll bring it down here. And for the minute, we're just going to tell it to be a new body, because we're going to want to pattern this around a little bit. I'm going to make this 12 mil high. Just change that top height, like so. Okay, let's do, it's all of our sort of reference images here. Everything is sort of rounded over, and it's obviously where it's been cast or machined. So we're going to try and get that same feel here. So we're going to add a little fillet to these inner corners, which is where, if you imagine if this has been cut out by a CNC machine, you've got a round cutter trying to fit into a corner, so it's always going to leave a rad. And again, if you are getting this machined, you might want to talk to the people doing the machining, find out what size cutters they have, so you're not modelling up something too small. So obviously a 10 mil radius means they can use a 20 mil cutter in there, which is quite chunky. Choose OK. Well, actually, instead of doing OK, in the same feature we can also add our top radiuses. So I want to select also this one, and this one, and this one. It's 12 mil, we don't want a full, so maybe do 5. So end up with something like that. That's going to look kind of cool. We'll do this inside edge as well. So select that. And we'll also put that at 5. Okay. So we've got that. Zoom out, see how that kind of reads. Is there enough going on there? Probably not. So let's add some, maybe there's some bolts, there's some other fixings going on in here. So we'll go back to our sketch, edit our sketch, and on to create. I'm going to see if they have a slot. They do, brilliant. We're going to go for a center point slot. So there are different ways of drawing slots. I think I'll cover this briefly. So you've got from the center of one curve to the other end, or what we're going to do is from the center of the actual slot itself to one end, and then it will mirror out. Which means the first place we want to click on is on our center line, and then we have the direction, and then we have the thickness of our slot. Something like that. We can obviously go back and dimension some of this. So we'll give that a 12mm rad, and I'll give that 80mm. And then if we want, we can specify from a point how far across that is going to be. So let's do that at, say, 50. Interesting. So what it's done is it moved the end of our construction line, because it didn't have a relation. So we can left click on our construction line, hold down shift to select another entity in the model. So we're going to choose this edge, and then we're going to say that they should be coincident. So suddenly that endpoint must always be attached to that edge. And now you can see our sketch has gone from being blue to black, which means it now fully knows where these pill slot is. I'm going to create another one of those, and I'm going to change the size slightly, but we'll still go from the center. Make it a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit fatter, something like that. Let's go back and define some dimensions for it. So let's go 15, go 60. Specified distance 140 between them, like so. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to go to our trim tool. Again, we're just going to trim out. Do you know what? Actually, scrap that. We're going to do this as a secondary feature, because I might want these slightly lower than our rib running up the middle of them, which kind of makes sense to me. So we'll finish the sketch. We will skip forwards one feature, which gives us that. We may as well do our fillets on that as well. Then if we go back and select on our sketch, we can then create a new extrude. We might have to go down into here and find that sketch. Down here somewhere, that one, there we go. Profile, we want this piece and this piece and this piece and this piece, and I want to bring them up, but maybe just up as far as this edge. So I can either go distance or to object. Not sure if to object will do it. Yep, well, there we go. So I can select that endpoint there as our sort of height reference. So the nice thing there is, should we go back to our earlier features and we decide to make that taller, these will move up automatically, and and we will join those. It'd be nice if at this point it asked me which objects I'd like it to join to, because what that has done is now joined all of this together, but that's fine. If we didn't want to do that, we obviously had the option of creating yet a new body and then manually sticking them together. So let's hide our sketch again, because we don't need that, and let's add some detail to this. So we'll do you know what, we're going to pattern this, so I don't want it to join together. Let's edit that feature. This is the nice thing, we can always go back and we can just tweak this. So we'll do new body, there we go. Now I'm going to manually glue these together. So we're going to stick to this one. Our tool bodies, I want to glue that bit, that bit, that bit, and that bit. Let's go think about it. There we go. So I want to add some little fillets to these. Ooh, do you know what? Not a fillet. I'm going to change that. I'm going to do those as a chamfer. I think it just looks a bit nicer. So do that and that, like so. But we might do a 2 distance chamfer. So distance 1, we're going to drop it down, say 5mm, and I'm going to bring it in, not by 5, let's go a little bit more, let's go 8mm. Might be a bit much. Okay, so let's go 6mm and let's just go 3mm down. So end up with something like that. Okay, that's giving us some interest. So we press OK. I think we need some vertical sticking out, and you see here we've got some right angles that we know that if this was cast they would be nice and soft. So we can just go in and quickly select all of these, and we'll make those a bit of soft angle. I'm thinking like a 4mm rad, doesn't have to be much. Something like that. Okay. So let's create a sketch. Do a sketch on this top. And we're going to do like a bolt, something that's sort of protruding out from this. So I reckon we can make that a 10mm bolt. We'll do a little offset, so we're going to add a small shadow gap around it, as if it's in a sort of a counterboard hole. So we'll do a little 5mm. And the last thing we do is we're going to do a shape, polygon. Here we go. One of these. So we've got here a number of sides, so I'm going for like a hexagon. You know, hexagons are cool. 4.2. Could make that an actual fixing size, could probably be a 4mm. So we'll double click that, change that to 4. Okay. So we've got a few things we want to do here. We would like to, first of all, finish our sketch. We're going to do an extrude, and we're going to grab this little piece here, and we are actually going to set that to be a cut. Not much, 1mm fine. And then we're going to turn that sketch back on again. So in our sketches folder on the left, we can scroll down to our bottom sketch. That'll be the last one that we created. And we're going to extrude this shape up just a little bit, so our bolt head is sitting proud. 3mm looks good. I'm going to do this as a new body. I'm always a fan of a new body. And then OK, we'll turn that sketch back on again, it's still on. And this time we want to select our piece in between. So at the minute I can't select it because my sketch is inside of a body. Sometimes there are shortcuts, like holding shift will let you select something behind it. I haven't found one yet. So under display settings I find it quite easy to change visual style to just do wireframe. There we go. Now I can go in and I can select. Ooh, it's right there, it's right there. Well, somebody somewhere is yelling at me. No, what you do is you click this, you do that. Send me a message, send me a WhatsApp, make my life easier. I use SolidWorks, and I know all the buttons on that piece of rubbish. Okay, right, what we're going to do is, luckily we made that button head its own body, so let's temporarily turn that off. Aha, aha. Now I can select that, so we'll go back to our usual style, shaded with hidden edges. There we go. Select this. Boom, got there in the end. Now we can turn that body back on again. Yes. We can extrude that up. Now I don't want it to go that far down, so instead of starting from the profile plane, we'll start from an offset. We're just going to bring it up by a mil. It's not going to be much, maybe 1.5 mil. Then OK. Yay! Again, we can just add a little chamfer detail to the top of our fixing here. Let's set that to an equal distance, 0.5, something like that. So it just gives us a little bit of fixing detail going on. Now we've got that, we want the same thing over here. Well, we could draw it again, or we could create our own little construction plane. We can do like a mid plane here. And if we go this face and this face, and then OK, that's going to give us a construction plane somewhere. My construction folder might be turned off still. Construction, there we go. Hey, there's our little orange plane. So that is exactly the right angle and the right distance that we can use that to mirror some stuff. So we can create mirror. What would we like to mirror? I'd like to mirror some features. The features I would like to mirror. Now I can select these from in my feature tree at the bottom, which makes life much easier. So I've got that cut feature, I want to do that. I want to do that extrude, and I want to do that cut, and I want to do that chamfer. So all of those, and mirror plane is this one here. So it gives us a little sort of ghosted preview of what we're going to get. Press OK. There we go. 2 for the price of 1. Let's turn our construction folder back off. We do the same thing here. Now, do we want to do something different, I wonder? Let's start a sketch. Maybe this is a hex head. Maybe this is just like a proper bolt just holding the engine together. So we're going to go to create, we're going to do a polygon. So you've got different ways of drawing your polygons. You've got either you specify the circle where the points touch, a circumscribed polygon, or sorry, no, an inscribed polygon, it's one where the points touch. A circumscribed polygon is the size of the circle where the flats of each face are tangent. And then failing that, you've got an edge polygon. If you just know the flat edge of one of them, you can specify that as a dimension, and then it will build the shape from that. Doesn't really matter with what we're doing. I just thought I'd go over it. So we can hover over this sort of curve, and that should wake up the middle point, so it snaps, which is nice. So that's central. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We can add a dimension to that. Do one across the flats here. 12.5. There we go. And we're just going to finish our sketch and extrude that up. We can add a little taper angle to it. Ooh, my yogurt pots are arriving tomorrow. Exciting stuff. Did minus 0.5 is a little bit. 5. Yeah. Okay. And again, we're going to do that as a new body at the moment, and then we'll glue it all together in a sec. So that's our sort of bolt. You know what I'm going to say. Let's add a little chamfer detail, something just to pick up the light. So we can select that top face. Usually, we won't. We'll just do around the edges then, so it doesn't like us now. We'll do that, and we'll do a 1 mil chamfer. So we'd already created our mirror plane previously, so we can turn on our construction, and this plane is obviously going to be useful for copying that bolt over as well. Let's rotate this around somewhere where I'm not getting lost or seasick. There we go. So we go to create, we'll go to mirror, and we're going to mirror bodies. I want that body round that face there. Okay, cool. Let's join all this together. So I want to glue all of this. I want to glue that to it, and that, and that. Okay. Okay, that gives us that. Now we can do our pattern array again. Bodies, what body do I want to copy? We'll go for this one. Direction we want to copy in, this one. We're already set to 3. I can't remember what the distance was, but I'm pretty sure it'll be that, 350. Okay. So that's kind of a quick way of starting to sort of build up some detail there. We could do some more sections running through here. Could go back and beef that up completely. So if we go back to, so we can click on this feature here, it's going to highlight it in our tree. Got these 3 little dashes on the top, and that sketch there is the sketch for that. So let's just edit that sketch a second. So we've kind of lost our dimension for these offsets. That must have happened when I trimmed it, which is why they're blue. So let's put that back in. So we had 6 mil, and I'm going to up that to 8, and we had 6 mil here, which I'm also going to update to 8. We also lost our distance between these 2 here, so just click both of those, place dimension 12, we'll keep that the same. There we go, our sketch is now fully defined again. And we'll finish. Now that just sort of beefs those up a little bit, which is nice. They look more like sort of straps, which is quite cool. Okay. One thing I have just realised is when we do our mirroring of the car, right at the beginning we had the issue where it looked too wide, and I kind of cheated by that. We made a little offset plane, so we were mirroring not around the world origin centre, but sort of 200 million. I'm just going to switch on those construction planes, because that shape is this orange plane here, which means we're going to lose a lot of this front engine block that we've just made, which seems a bit of a shame. So out of curiosity, let's do our modify and split body. Body we want to split is going to be that engine block, and splitting tool is going to be that plane. The plane we correct, yeah, there we go, that one. So there we go, that is going to slice right through there, so we're going to lose half our detail. These pieces aren't going to be divided up into the right number of parts. And if we'd been drawing this in a program like Rhino, for example, or 3D Studio Max, and we've made a mesh and everything's in there, we've got to try and squeeze everything up and kind of cheat, and it's quite labour intensive. So again, the nice thing about this is we can go right the way back to where we started today, which is when we split this body. So I select the chamfer, that's our patterns, that's our tops, that's our revolves, that's our sketch there, that one there, there's sham, split body, that sketch, there we go, boom. That's the sketch that we used to slice up this front engine block into pieces. So let's take our feature tree back to that point, and we'll go in and we will edit that sketch. So what we can do is we can see we've got our plane, our construction plane we created for our mirroring, and we can use that as a point of reference for adding some dimensions to these lines. So let's say between this line and this plane, you're not going to let me do that, are you? What sort of weirdness is this? Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's finish that sketch. Let's just very quickly cut something so we've got a hard edge that we can go up against. So I'm going to cut a piece off of this. So we'll go up to our modify, split bodies. Body one to split is this round one. We're going to choose that new sort of offset origin there. got a preview. Okay. I'm going to select this and I'm going to hide it. So I've just right clicked on it. I can choose hide. And there we go. So now I need to do that before my sketches. So I can move my sketch just by clicking and dragging it to the other side of that split body. So you can kind of rearrange things a little bit. Be warned that if you do, there could be consequences, there could be knock-on effects. Maybe the thing that sketch was referencing is now no longer there because you've moved it to before that part was actually drawn. But for little things like that, you can kind of shuffle things around, which is good. So now we can edit that sketch and we'll try again. So I want to try and shift all of that along a little bit. So if I do from that face to that edge, come on, there we go. Cool, I've got a dimension. Put up here so we can see where it is. So that's saying it's 15 mil, so it's 15 mil the wrong side as well. So let's do that at 50, but we'll change it to -50 because I quite like that line to move the other side. It's not going to let me. How weird is that? 50. Oh, so it'll do that. Oh, this program is infuriating sometimes. Let's double click. Now can we put a minus in front of it? Can I put it the other side of that, please? -50. No. -10. No, it won't let me do minuses. So bizarre. Okay, we'll leave it where it is. And then what we'll do then is, do you know what we'll do? What we will do, I'm going to select the top face using our view cube in the top right hand corner. I'm then going to delete this measurement. So choose escape so we get back to our just normal arrow. Click once, hit delete. That's gone. I can see here now this line. So I'm just going to manually click this one and move it around a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So you've got that going on. Still looks a little bit wide. I'd like to change the patterning on this. So I can double, so we have this little pattern icon. I keep zooming in and it's staying the same size. These 4 little sort of squares is the pattern that we did for the sketch. So I can double click on that to edit it. So we can now go and change our distances here. So we can bring that back into say 120, 130. And choose OK. Yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. Finished our sketch. Right, now we can tentatively roll everything forwards again and see what happens. So, split features, split bodies, perfect. We can add our chamfers. Yep, that's good. That's good. Do these two. Yep, they're all fine. Then we do our sketch. Now, because we chose a sketch plane that was the face of one of these, that face will have moved because we've now sliced everything and moved everything. That's all fine. So we do our revolve. Yep, that's in the center where we want it. We can do our little fillets and chamfers on top of that. Do our pattern of it. Yep. Then we can do our joining the engine block together. Dum dum dum. Now what I'm going to do here at this stage is I'm going to cut that excess piece off because we don't want that anymore. It's confusing. That's why we got I got confused while I was drawing it. I thought I had more space to work with than I did. So let's get rid of that now. So under modify, split bodies, this body, splitting tool, this face, select that, select this, boom, get our little preview circle up. Yeah, looks nice. Okay. I'm going to right click on this. I'm just going to hide it. Okay, so that gives us a better idea. This is the space we've got to work with. So what happens now? We had our little round overs at the front there. Then we started doing our sketch. Aha, you see, now this has come right the way out to here because it was using that outside edge as a reference. So we can right click, edit sketch, and we're going to have to seriously move some things around. So maybe we move these engine blocks, our sort of I don't know, little towers slightly further over. Maybe they're no longer central to that line, but you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We can move them central to this block here, and that's going to give us a little bit more space to try and squeeze some of this in, because I like having the two brackets, and that's going to be a really tight fit if we try and do that here. This is what Fusion and this type of modelling is all about, is the ability to be able to go back and change things without too much of a headache. So we want to find our revolve feature in our tree, which is this one here. We want to find the sketch that we've got here. So we'll just rewind that back. That was our sketch. So can we edit the sketch? See, now again, I keep saying about it, but wonderful things with SolidWorks is at this stage I could say, actually, I want to move the plane that I drew that sketch on, or I would like to actually change the plane. So if it's not even a plane I've drawn, it's one I've referenced, I say, actually, I don't want to do that one, I want to do the one behind it. Yeah, fine, not a problem, and it just picks up where it left off. This does not look like it's going to be that easy. So, other ways of doing things. Always thinking of other ways of doing things. Let's carry on as we were. We'll deal with moving bodies. I don't think we've dealt a lot with that so far. So that's what we ended up with, our little round there. We're going to whiz this through to here. So we've got all of that, and then we'll even do our combine everything together and pattern it. So we've got that. Perfect. Okay. So moving bodies. We've got here move copy up in our tools section. And you know, it says I want to move bodies, so I can start selecting bodies. So I can select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got this sort of gimbal here, which conveniently gives me the sort of planes that I can drag and move things around. So we can just shift these back, probably, I don't know, there, maybe 100 mil. And we'll go back and we'll just change our initial sketch. We'll shrink all this up a little bit, and that'll be fine. So you can type in dimensions here if you need to. If you need to move that pivot point, so maybe you want to rotate it but around a certain angle, you can click on this and set the pivot point somewhere. You can also choose to make a copy. So you know, we could have clicked create a copy at the start of that, and then it would have made a duplicate. So that has moved everything there. It's left our sketch there, that's what that is. Turn our sketches off for the minute. Actually, turn our sketches back on, but we'll hide that one sketch. Okay. The reason I've turned the sketch folder back on is because I'm about to go back and edit a sketch, and if the sketch folder is still turned off, I'm not going to be able to see it. So what's useful here is we can measure some stuff. So we can inspect. We've got this measure tool, and I can say, okay, so what's the distance between this end face and this end face? And that's going to tell me it's 50 mil. So when we go back, I can shrink all of this down, and I know that I just need to make it 50 mil shorter, and everything will then match up nicely. So we'll close. Click on our face, that will highlight it in our feature tree. We can go to our sketch here, edit our sketch. Okay, so I had specified that the end of our construction line should be joined up to this line here, which was the edge of that front engine block. I don't want that anymore, so I can select on that relationship. Just fills it in blue. It's very, very subtle, and I can then delete it. So now I can move these things around, hopefully. I'm going to shrink this by 50 mil as well, so we can do 140 minus 50 is 90. That's going to bring that in this way. That's fine, because I specified a 50 mil here, so we want to move everything at least 50 mil that way, so we'll make that 100. That's going to put that there. Okay, I think that's fine. Other things we can do here is we can just create a little line here as a vertical. We're going to say, look, that is going to be 50 mil shorter. That's the bit we're going to cut off there, 50 mil. Okay, finish sketch. Nice. We've still got that bit sticking out here. We could go back and cut that off, or if we find the feature that made that, which is this one here, edit our feature, and here we can just deselect that section. Okay. Build everything else. Boom, there we go. So another interesting thing here is our brackets are actually sitting in our V channels. So this one in particular looks weird, it's just kind of hovering. So we want to rectify that as well. So we can click on part of the edge of that feature, which is this, not the combine, annoyingly. Let's find that one there. So it's going to be this extrude here. We can then edit that feature. We had that set to one side, so suddenly we can set that to two sides, and we can just make that deep enough where it's going to intersect. Okay, there we go. So that kind of sits in there like that, and that's kind of looking pretty cool. So I'm going to use just these features that we've been covering here. So we've got the extrude, the revolve, the sweep, maybe the loft, but probably not actually. I'm just going to be using those along with our pattern and our mirror options. And I'm just going to do a little time lapse, and I'm going to finish this car off. Like I say, I promise if there's anything on there that I think, oh, that's a good tidbit, I should share that, I'll slow the video down and we'll go into more detail. But until then, as per usual, let's mirror everything. So mirror, bodies, objects. I would like to select everything. My mirror plane, remember, is that offset one just here that we just trimmed everything to nicely. Okay. So that's kind of the start of our front engine block, looking a bit pretty cool. Yeah, so with that, we'll eventually get there. So until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, follow me on Twitter, and do get in touch if there's anything, any criticisms, or anything else. That'd be great. Cheers. Stay safe.